so very much. Now, Marjorie.
Diane, thank you. God bless you. You did a great job. I've got a hot mic on. Okay, sounds good. First of all, thank you so much for coming out tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule to come and spend some very important time with me. We have a lot to talk about tonight. The state of our country is in dangerous times. And the reason why we are where we are is because the federal government has forgotten the American people and no longer serves you. And it should never be this way. And Diane, I really want to thank you for bringing up when I first ran for Congress. That was something I was going to bring up. Look, you all know me. You know who I am. You elected me. I work for you. I do not work for Washington, D.C. I do not work for the special interest. I do not serve the lobbyist. I do not serve any other group. I work for Georgia's 14th district. And I thank you. I humbly thank you. So I want to get one very important order of business because I do work for you and so does my staff. I have an incredible district staff. We do all the constituent services and my staff is amazing. I'm so thankful for them. If anyone is here tonight and you need help with anything from veterans issues, Social Security issues, tax issues, passports, and on and on and on, you can go and see my staff. Tracy, raise your hand. This is Tracy. She's a superstar. And Tracy is here to help you with that. And Kayla is here as well. So please, if you have it, yes, give them a round of applause. They deserve it. It's about customer service, everyone. That's the most important thing that I do. And then I've got also people are here from my DC office. They flew down for this town hall because this is so important to us. So moving on, the whole reason I ran for Congress, and you guys know this, is because we know exactly who the Democrats are. They tell us their agenda. They tell us their policies. And then they do something that I'm quite impressed with. They follow through. But I ran for Congress in 2020 because I was fed up with Republicans not following through. Republicans have a very, very bad habit of making promises on the campaign trail, making promises to you on television, talking tough against the Democrats' agenda, and then doing nothing to stop it. That's why I ran for Congress. That's how I campaigned with every single one of you. That's why you elected me and sent me to Congress. Because we know that if you do not solve problems, we know that if you do not fix things that are broken, they continue to the point of collapse. And that is where we are heading today in our country. So I want to go ahead and start with playing you all a video, and then I'm going to get into this really important issue. You guys can go ahead. Where's Kayla? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in extreme opposition to the second part of the Omnibus bill. No Republican in the House of Representatives in good conscience can vote for this bill. It is a complete departure of all of our principles, especially if you call yourself pro-life. This bill funds full-term abortion. This is not a Republican bill. This is a Chuck Schumer, Democrat-controlled bill coming from the House majority that is supposed to be controlled by Republicans, but yet our majority has been completely
Members are reminded to direct their
Democrats.
remarks to the chair, please.
Madam Speaker, it is the will of our voters, and it is the will of Republicans across the country that this bill should not be brought to the floor, that this bill will absolutely destroy our majority, and will tell every single one of our voters that this majority is a failure. This is the bill that the White House cannot wait to sign into law. This is the bill that rips our border wide open and tells every single person in over 160 countries around the world they can invade our country, they can run over our Border Patrol, they can run over our Texas National Guard, they can come in, rape our women, murder our people, and squat and take over our homes. This is an atrocious attack on the American people. The Speaker of the House should not bring it to the floor, and this bill should not pass.
And then our Speaker of the House, our Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, brought that very bill to the floor, passed it with the Democrats, and did not have the majority of Republicans. So I filed a motion to vacate. That is a very serious issue. Now let's talk about what this means, what really happened. You all are some of the brightest people in the country. I know you follow very closely what is happening in Washington. Currently, right now, the Democrats control the White House, Joe Biden being president. The Democrats control the Senate, and Republicans control the House of Representatives with a razor-thin majority. That's a majority I fought for. That's a majority that I campaigned all over the country to help Republicans get elected. This is a majority that I donated money to, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to help Republicans win the House. This is a majority that's extremely important because the Republican majority in the House of Representatives should serve as the wall that protects America from Joe Biden and the Democrats' destructive agenda on this country and on the American people. This has been a tough year for Republicans in Congress. We have had bitter battles with one another. But I want you to know, anyone that serves in leadership in America should be prepared to battle for what is right. We should be prepared to fight it out with one another. We should be prepared to find common ground. We should be prepared to hold on and do what is right, to do what our voters sent us to do. But that has not happened this Congress. As a matter of fact, our Republican House majority has failed completely. And I have had enough of it. So I am here in person in a town hall in my district to talk directly to you about this serious problem that we have. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, like I said, I work for you. I work for you. You hired me. I work for you in Washington, D.C. And as you just saw on that clip right there, I do not hold back. I don't hold back. Now, since we have elected Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, and I want to tell you about his promises to us. He sent us a letter, okay? I'm going to tell you what his promises were. He sent us a letter and he gave us 7 tenets. He said, as Speaker of the House, he would restore trust by ensuring total transparency, open processes, and regular order. He has broken that tenet, destroyed it. Let me tell you what he has done. Not only did he pass 3 CRs, a CR is a continuing resolution. It continued Nancy Pelosi's budget from last Congress. Passed those clean 3 times. 3 times. Did that with Democrats. He also broke our rules. Here he promised open processes and regular order and total transparency. We have not had that from the Speaker of the House because he has gone and worked with Chuck Schumer in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. Do you guys like Mitch McConnell? Is Mitch McConnell the leader in Washington that our Republican speaker should be listening to? No, absolutely not. He's also worked with Hakeem Jeffries and the White House, not with his members. He has broken our rules. That bill that I was arguing on, that we were debating on the House floor, he broke every rule. He suspended the rules, which means it didn't go through Rules Committee. It was supposed to go through Rules Committee. Then he broke the 72-hour rule. He gave us 1 day to read a bill that was over 1,000 pages. No one can read a bill that's 1,000 pages in a day. And then he brought it to the floor and passed that bill with all the Democrats voting for it and the majority of the majority against it. That is not what a Republican Speaker of the House does. That was the second part of an omnibus. That was another thing that we promised you all we wouldn't do. We said we will not pass omnibuses. We will pass separate appropriation bills. That failed right before Easter. He passed half of the omnibus 1 week, then brought that second part of the omnibus to the floor, passed it with the Democrats without our input, and the most egregious thing he did was he tied our hands behind our backs and would not let us make amendments. Amendments are an extremely important process. Amendments are our way of trying to do everything we can to change a bill, maybe to add something to it or take something out. Let me assure you, there were many amendments I would have loved to put to the floor for a vote on that bill. Here's one. That omnibus funded full-term abortion. Full-term abortion. I'm talking about babies up till 9 months. Funded full-term abortion clinics. I would have loved to introduce an amendment to strip abortion funding out of that bill. That came from our pro-life Republican speaker. This bill funded the trans agenda on children. Yes, chest binders and other clothing, education, LGBTQ groups that target children with the trans agenda. One of the most evil things happening in America today. That bill that our Republican Speaker, Mike Johnson, tied our hands behind our back, brought to the floor and got it passed with Democrats, did absolutely nothing to stop the border invasion. Nothing. Let me tell you, you heard all the time from Republicans, we will use the power of the purse. That was the power of the purse. The appropriations and how we spend your hard-earned tax dollars is the power. And in that bill right there, that's how we spent your money. There were no policy writers in that bill. There was no language in that bill to stop Joe Biden's deadly border invasion. We could have put H.R. 2, our border security bill, inside of that and totally changed the Democrats' border policies. We could have put the Laken-Riley Act that would deport criminal aliens. We could have put that in that bill. Mike Johnson did none of it. He fully funded the border invasion and then went out to fundraise against Joe Biden's border invasion.
Sounds like a rhino to me.
Yeah. Maybe a Democrat speaker, actually. Let me tell you what else that bill did. It fully funded the FBI and the Department of Justice. Right now, the Department of Justice with Jack Smith has 91 federal indictments against President Trump. The Biden administration's Department of Justice wants to put President Trump in jail for the rest of his life. That is a death sentence. Joe Biden's Department of Justice wants a death sentence for President Trump. And this bill fully funded Jack Smith's investigation and prosecutions. That bill also fully funded the prosecutions against January 6 defendants who are being arrested on average one every day today. Every single day, there are still January 6th defendants that are being arrested. Every single day. That bill fully funded it. That bill also fully funded the prosecution of pro-life protesters that were arrested for praying and singing and offering women an alternative to abortion. They are being prosecuted and are facing 11 years in jail. That bill fully funded the Department of Justice to continue prosecute pro-life protesters. No, not Antifa or BLM, pro-life protesters. That bill fully funded the FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago, that went through the president's home, President Trump's home, went through all of their belongings, wrongfully, unconstitutionally raided President Trump's home, fully funded the FBI. Even more so, Mike Johnson gave the FBI the full funding to build a brand new building, rewarded them. These are just a fraction of the things that were in that funding. Am I angry? Yes. My question to you is, are you angry? Yes, you're damn right you're angry.
I want a refund.
Yeah, you want a refund. You deserve a refund. My goodness, you pay for this.
Refund, I want some Jim Jordan in there, is what I want.
So here's our issue. This is our Republican Speaker of the House. Let me tell you, here's what they're pushing back on me. Oh, Marjorie, you know, silly Marjorie. This is how things are done in divided government. No, they are not. That is not true. And they don't have to be done this way in divided government. And let me tell you why. You guys remember back in the mid to late 1990s when Bill Clinton, Democrat, was president? The Senate was controlled by Democrats, but the House was controlled by Republicans. Remember Speaker Newt Gingrich, right? Under those Republicans in the House, they were able to balance the budget, and they had many other conservative victories. That was under a Democrat-controlled White House. That was under a Democrat-controlled Senate, and that was under a Republican Speaker of the House. Do not tell me that this is the way we have to govern in a divided government, because that is a lie. When Republicans in the House are in the white flag before they have even taken a step on the battlefield, yes, they are giving everything over to the Democrats, and we will win nothing. And that is the leadership we have in Washington, D.C., and I will not tolerate it. I won't tolerate it. Let me tell you, this is going to get worse, okay? That was just the appropriation bill where we completely lost our opportunity to do anything to secure the southern border and to stop the Department of Justice, stop the FBI, hold them accountable. We failed on every level because our Speaker of the House tied our hands behind our back and worked with Democrats. But it's about to get worse. How, do you ask me? We go back to Washington tomorrow. I have a flight tomorrow morning, but you all were the most important people that I could talk to before I go do my job this week. Here's why. They want to reauthorize FISA. Do you all know what FISA is? Yes. Do you remember how FISA has been abused by the FBI? They spied on President Trump and his team and his staff during the Russia hoax. They have spied on hundreds of thousands of Americans by unconstitutionally warrantless spying. Well, Mike Johnson is bringing us back because he wants to reauthorize FISA because it runs out on April 19th. This is not an annual reauthorization in the government. This is for 5 years. 5 years. I want you to imagine, after we have watched our government spy on the American people, totally violate your rights, your freedom of speech, censors you on social media, make sure that you were kicked off of social media. How many people have been kicked off of Facebook? Yeah, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, okay. There's some good people in here. Thanks for coming. Yeah, guess what? I was permanently banned on Twitter for a whole year too, as a sitting member of Congress. Our government wants to silence your speech. Our government wants to know what you're doing in your private life. Our government wants to take this a lot further if Democrats keep control. Oh, a lot further. They want to know how you spend your money, where you spend it, who you spend it with. And if they get their way, they'd love to have a digital dollar where they can turn it off when they want to. So reauthorizing something like FISA is a serious issue. It is something to battle on. Our government should never be able to spy on Americans without going to court and getting a warrant. What is the excuse they're going to give us? Marjorie, we have to reauthorize FISA because we could have a terrorist attack on our country. You want to know what I want to say back to them? You should have shut the border down. Right? If you're worried about terrorism, then we should mass deport people. Not allow them in the country, take care of them with Americans' hard-earned tax dollars, give them a place to live, give them a school for their children, give them health care, and also let them vote. It's pretty easy. Americans should never be spied on without a warrant. That is wrong. But that's what we're going to be going up to vote on this week. And Mike Johnson has got it all worked out so the deep state gets their way. You will see us do amendments. You will see us argue about it up in Washington on the House floor, but the deal's already been done. The deep state's going to get what they want. That should never happen. Speaking of borders, let's talk about the country that most of us cannot find on a map, but that the Democrats and many of the rhinos think is the 51st state of the United States of America, and that's the country of Ukraine. Now, do we have a heart for any country that is under attack? Of course we do. We want the best for the Ukrainian people. We want peace in their country. That is what we want. 70% of Americans want peace in Ukraine. That's what Ukraine deserves. Ukraine does not deserve the United States federal government funding a war with billions and billions of dollars in our military equipment, which is the best in the world, in order to slaughter an entire generation of young Ukrainian men. Because that is what is happening in Ukraine. That's the truth. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men have already been killed, and they're drafting them every single day, throwing them up to the front lines to fight Russia in America's proxy war against Russia. That is exactly what this is. That is what they're forcing you to pay for. And I know you. No one in America, very few people, I would say, agree with this. Most Americans do not want to pay for that buzzsaw of death. Those are murder fields, and we're paying for it. Going back to Washington this week and next week, they want $60 billion of your money to go to Ukraine. $60 billion in one of the most corrupt countries on earth. $60 billion. They've already sent them $113 billion. If you want to know something that'll really make you angry, Ukraine gets $1 billion every single month. Every single month, it's like auto draft out of your checking account. It goes to Ukraine to pay for their government, to pay their government salaries, to pay their pensions. Every month, $1 billion. Can you imagine what we could do in Georgia's 14th district with $1 billion every month? No, they send it to Ukraine. And they want to keep sending it to Ukraine, so much so that I think, and I've heard this whispered in different meetings, they would love to send our uncles, our cousins, and our sons to that battlefield in Ukraine. And I will tell you, over my dead body will they do that. We should not be fighting that war. The war we should be fighting is at our own southern border. That is the war. If we're going to fight a war, we should be fighting the cartels. That is who is invading our country. That is who is attacking our people. Over 10 million people have crossed our border. Drugs, human trafficking, sex trafficking, it's happening every single day. But they think, Mike Johnson says his top priority is to fund Ukraine. Top priority. No, the American people's agenda is peace for Ukraine, fight for our border. That's what our agenda is. And I would argue that families like Lake and Riley's family and other families who have lost loved ones to illegal alien murder and crime and fentanyl overdoses, they agree with that. Our border is the border that matters. Speaking of borders, I'm going to say this. I don't want to toot my horn too much, but I am the only member of Congress that has brought any accountability against the Biden administration in Washington, D.C., because I impeached Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Thank you, and I'm very proud of that. So this week, it's my articles of impeachment with my name on them, impeaching Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, that we will be taking from the House and walking over to the Senate. We will be delivering those this week. Now, you know Chuck Schumer, you know what he's going to do. He's going to vote to table them. They do not want to admit that they have a problem. But I would like to go ahead and show you guys another video, which was my floor speech about these articles.
I thank the chairman. Madam Speaker, I rise in strong support of HRES 863, impeaching Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Alejandro Mayorkas is guilty of aiding and abetting the complete invasion of our country by criminals, gang members, terrorists, murderers, rapists, and over 10 million people from over 160 countries into American communities all across the United States. His willful refusal to secure the border has bankrupted communities, closed down U.S. schools that our children attend, drowned hospitals, and incapacitated law enforcement while empowering criminal cartels and illegal aliens. My Democrat colleagues argue that one cannot be impeached over policy differences. Well, I argue that breaking our laws is more than just policy differences. 300 dead Americans every day from fentanyl poisoning is more than just a policy difference, it's murder. Today in my own office, narcotics law enforcement officers from Georgia told me that 7 out of 10 Oxycontins or Percocets sold on the street are laced with fentanyl, and that comes directly across the border from Mexico. Secretary Mayorkas has violated numerous provisions in the Immigration and Nationality Act, including unlawfully directing DHS to mass parole illegal aliens into the U.S. when federal law specifically prohibits this, and unlawfully implementing catch-and-release policies when federal law specifically mandates the detention and removal of inadmissible aliens. In fact, detention facilities under Mayorkas have been mostly vacant because of such unlawful policies. The largest detention facility in California, which can house almost 2,000 illegals, is currently housing only 6 illegal aliens. He has violated his oath of office and breached the public trust by willfully refusing to ensure the laws passed by Congress and signed into law by the President are faithfully executed as required by Article 2 of the Constitution. He has allowed over 10 million illegal border crossers to invade our country, approximately 2 million of whom are known gotaways. These are people who have completely evaded U.S. authorities and are roaming the interior of the American communities, assaulting, raping, and murdering Americans. And God help us if we have a terrorist attack on our land. His subversion of the law has resulted in the highest number of illegal alien encounters in a single day, in the highest number of illegal alien encounters in a single month. and the highest number of illegal alien encounters in a single year, surpassing every national record on each account.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
I yield the lady an additional 15 seconds.
His willful refusal to enforce the law has resulted in the most egregious national security crisis in the history of our country. Democrats are in a quandary. Either they must own the policies of murder and crime of American citizens, or they can admit Secretary Mayorkas has broken federal laws and vote to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Secretary Mayorkas.
You're welcome. And let me tell you something. I should have never had to tell the Republican Speaker of the House that I will force Congress to vote on those articles of impeachment every single week until we impeach Secretary Mayorkas. But that is what I had to do to get that done. That's what I had to do. But I serve on the Homeland Security Committee. There are great members on there. I'm so thankful to our chairman, Mark Greene, that helped us get it done once we were able to move forward on that process. But it shouldn't have been that hard, you guys. I'm telling you, it should not. The evidence is clear. And that's why I go back to this second part of this omnibus. How dare our own speaker that we elected pass that spending bill and not do anything for that border? Nothing. It's horrid. It's horrid. Let's talk a second about how much money. It's staggering. We're nearly $35 trillion in debt. These are statistics I want you all to know. We're nearly $35 trillion in debt. Every single night, as we all sleep, and maybe after hearing this tonight, I'm sorry, you may not sleep that well. Every single night as we sleep, we gain another $40 billion just on the interest alone. $40 billion. Last night while we slept, another $40 billion and more will be added tonight. CBO is estimating that in 10 years, we're going to be $55 trillion in debt. 10 years from now. This is a runaway train. So when we talk about appropriation bills and how the American people's money is spent, it should be the most important thing we do in Washington. It's our constitutional duty. In the House of Representatives, Congress is responsible for the budget. That's by law in our Constitution. Therefore, spending your money should be our highest responsibility. Your money shouldn't go to a foreign country that's not even a member of NATO called Ukraine. Your money should not fund a trans agenda. Your money should never fund abortion. Your money should not fund crazy science experiments that produce things like vaccines or animal experiments. Your money should not fund most of the things that it funds. As a matter of fact, I really like the president of Argentina, Milei, that is striking and cutting all the parts of his government, cutting them to pieces and sending tens of thousands of their government employees out to the private sector to get new jobs. And that's exactly what we should do in America. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. But this is Washington, D.C. So I just wanted to talk about that for a few minutes. Now, I also serve on the Oversight Committee, everyone, and we have been leading the investigation into the impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden. You all know how I feel. If I had it my way, we would have impeached him a long time ago. Actually, if I had it my way, we would have been successful in our objection on January 6th, and he wouldn't even be president. I'm getting better, though. We'll get there. So there's a certain someone that here, I want to show you his reaction when he came in, and I just got my Chairman Comer recognized me to speak to him, And this was his reaction.
Ms. Greene from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently, you're afraid of my words. Here goes.
Oh.
I like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Kind of burst their bubble. Wow, that's too bad.
I think it's clear and obvious for everyone watching this hearing today that Hunter Biden is terrified of strong conservative Republicans. In spite of all the talk that he had made, and in spite of all the interviews he did, and in spite of his little press conference that he had outside of the Capitol steps, and him saying that he wanted a public hearing, after that took place, he would not come back for a public hearing. So that should tell you everything you need to know. He did come in for a private behind closed doors hearing where he had all of his attorneys and as much. But someone very brave, someone I think is an American patriot, did come in and testify, and that is Tony Bobulinski. So I wanted to play you guys a clip from that questioning right here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Biden continues to lie to the American people about his role in his family's businesses. In 2020, he stood up on stage of a presidential debate and told the American people that his family didn't take any money from China. That was a lie. Not only was it a lie, he knew it was a lie. He knew it because he met with his son Hunter Biden's Chinese business associates. I want to talk about CEFC, which is the China Energy Fund Committee. Mr. Bobulinski, who is Chairman Yi?
Chairman Yi was the chairman of CEFC.
Thank you. Jim Biden told the FBI and IRS that Chairman Yi was the protege of Xi Jinping, the leader of China and the Chinese Communist Party. Mr. Bobulinski, Rob Walker told this committee that Joe Biden met Chairman Yi. Are you aware of that? Yes or no?
I am now. I wasn't at the time.
And Joe Biden also met with you, is that right?
Yes, he did. Twice.
Who is Director Zhang?
Director Zhang was the number 2 at CEFC.
The executive director of CEFC, the number 2?
Yeah, he was the number 2 executive, but really the point person that I worked with and the Biden family worked with, and he's the individual that Hunter Biden was shaking down at the end of July 2017, demanding that they fund the $10 million. They ultimately sent 5, but $10 million directly to Hunter Biden's account, Owasco.
Thank you, Mr. Bobulinski. I want to show you a text message that Hunter Biden sent to you and his other business associates. I'm holding it right here. I'll read it to you. Hey, Tony, I have an idea. In light of the fact we are at...
But James' lawyers and my chairman gave an emphatic no. I think we should all meet in Romania. He's speaking about my chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Biden continues to lie to the American people about his role in his family's businesses. In 2020, he stood up on stage of a presidential debate and told the American people that his family didn't take any money from
Mr. Chairman, and I had direct communications with Director Zhang over WeChat. Met him in Romania, met him in Moscow, met him around the world in New York, trying to develop this business, and he was never referred to as the chairman, first of all. Second of all, that makes absolutely no sense in the context of this message because we are discussing Oneida Holdings, LLC.
Thank you. So he was not the chairman, just to clarify. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So I want to show you another text. When he said his chairman, he was talking about his dad. This is from Rob Walker. It didn't seem to make much sense to Rob Walker either. So he said that when Hunter, he said this to you, when Hunter was talking about his chairman, he was talking about his dad. When Rob Walker came in to give his transcribed interview to the committee, he basically said, well, Hunter was high or confused or mad. And Rob Walker said that he was just trying to calm things down between you and Hunter. But that doesn't really answer the question about who Hunter Biden is talking about. Hunter Biden lied to this committee, So here, clearly, he says, Rob Walker's saying he's talking about his dad. So I want to be very clear. We've established that Zhang is not the chairman, obviously. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Correct.
Let me show you another message. This message doesn't call Zhang Chairman Zhang, does it? It just says the Chinese want to do business with the Bidens. As a matter of fact, it says, both coming to be my partner, to be partners with the Bidens, with an S. He, Zhang, has implied that the number one has made it clear and available to him. Who is the number one?
The number one is Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping, the president of China? Yes or no? The leader of the Communist Party, the CCP?
Yes.
Is the number one.
Yes, that's the number one that Hunter was referencing in that message.
Now, let's be very clear. This was in 2017, but I would like to make it known for this committee that Joe Biden told the press in 2016, as a matter of fact, I quote, "Yeah, I am going to run in 2020. He told the press in 2016 that he was running for president of the United States in 2020. So here is the Bidens doing business in China in 2017 when everybody knew he was planning to be president of the United States. Do you see that to be a serious problem, Mr. Boboletsky?
I do, and I wish this committee would thoroughly investigate it and focus on all the evidence that the SDNY has on CFC. They had FISA warrants, so they were recording conversations, and I wish they disclosed all that data and fact to this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Boboletsky. Oh, yeah. Just imagine if they had that on President Trump and one of his sons, Eric Trump or Don Jr. Imagine that scenario. Just to clear that up, that was the most important 5 minutes I've heard in any committee hearing. That was when Tony Boboletsky testified that Hunter Biden's chairman was not anyone else, any of those other names. It was his father. His chairman is his father. That means that's my business partner. That's my boss. That's who I answer to. That's who Hunter Biden answers to, his father. Then the number one person that they were doing business with in China is the president of China, Xi Jinping, the leader of the Communist Party, the current leader of the Communist Party, the current president of China. It was the number one. Those text messages were personal text messages between Hunter Biden, Tony Boboletsky, and Rob Walker. They were business partners at that time. Do you understand what danger that puts all of us in? Our president of the United States is completely compromised, can be blackmailed, is bought and paid for. And our government is doing nothing about it. As a matter of fact, he is the perfect president of the United States for them, for the deep state, because he will do whatever they need and whatever they want in order to continue this going. We have a wide open border, ladies and gentlemen. We have terrorists in our country right now today, very likely by the thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands and more. We don't know. Our government does nothing about it. Our president has worked for and works with, and we don't know what they're doing now with the president of China and many other countries. We are in debt. We are enslaved in our debt, and the debt is growing and growing and growing and out of control. I have children. And I hope to God, if God is willing, I have grandchildren. I will not tolerate a Speaker of the House that I voted for to sell us out. I will not tolerate it. And I need to explain more to you. Not only did I fight for the Republican majority last Congress, I am fighting for the Republican majority right now. And I'm going to fight even harder for the Republican majority next Congress, because I'm hoping and praying and fighting with all I have for my favorite president to be back in the White House. And that means that we have to have a Republican-controlled House of Representatives and a Republican-controlled Senate that can pass his agenda. But it cannot be led by anyone in leadership that has done the bidding of the Democrats and the Biden administration. That cannot happen. I am not alone in this. There are other members of Congress that feel exactly the way I do. There are other Republicans. And we have to go to Washington. We have to work together. We have to talk together, and we have to figure out how to solve this problem. But I wanted to tell you all first, it is a serious issue. It is a serious issue because, like I said, it's not over. Ukraine is coming. Ukraine funding, $60 billion they want. FISA reauthorization is this week. And guess what? Government has to be funded again by September 30th. So that same garbage bill, big fat two-part omnibus that just got passed, yeah, we do that all over again in September on September 30th. That's right. So all of this stuff that the Biden administration got, that Chuck Schumer couldn't wait to get those bills across his desk. He could not wait to line up his senators and Mitch McConnell line up his little soldiers to vote and pass it and send it over to Joe Biden, whether he knew it or not. But he did know he wanted to sign it because they told him so. This is the state of our country. You can't even make it up. It's outrageous. It is outrageous, and it should not be happening. Here's something else that should not be happening. I serve on the COVID committee, and I get really frustrated with that committee because I don't think it's doing anything that people really care about. And so I want to show you a clip from that.
Nothing creates vaccine hesitancy like ignoring people when they're reporting problems with vaccines that they're being mandated and forced to take. Vaccines that they have to take in order to keep their job. Vaccines that they have to take in order to be able to go to restaurants, go into stores, go into public places. Vaccines the doctors are telling them to take, but yet when they're screaming from the rooftops, something's wrong with the vaccines, I'm telling you, that creates vaccine hesitancy. The other problem is when you get censored on the internet or you get permanently banned on social media when you were a victim of a vaccine injury or a doctor trying to report what you were seeing in your patients from vaccines. This chart right here, this represents vaccine reports from all vaccines since 1990. 34 years. This represents reports on the COVID-19 vaccines since December of 2020, less than 4 years. Something's wrong with the vaccines. And just because people are walking around and they've been vaccinated and they're not reporting a problem doesn't mean other people aren't having problems. And this has been virtually ignored. So much so, not only has it been ignored, it's also been censored and banned and labeled misinformation. This was a coordinated effort with the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, the Department of Homeland Security, FISA, Stanford, and the Virility Project. As a matter of fact, real people with real problems got censored, such as Maggie DeGaray. Maggie was a young child who developed severe symptoms and is still has a feeding tube today. She is a very sick child. That happened from the COVID vaccine. But her mother was taken off of the internet when she tried to report the problem. Can you imagine trying to report a problem with your child who's having a real vaccine injury, but yet social media takes you off? And the White House says it's okay, and Department of Homeland Security says it okay, and they label it misinformation? We can talk about funding these government programs and throwing more money at these government programs, but that isn't going to change the fact that vaccines should have never been forced on all these people to begin with. And if we want to talk about diseases like measles, being transmitted among Americans, then perhaps we should talk about border security and stopping people who are unvaccinated from coming across our border.
Happen. Should have never happened. But it's still happening. The vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, and there's a lot of people walking around that have never had any vaccine injuries, have no problems with them, and that's great. We're happy for that. But there is a percentage of people in our population that do have problems with these vaccines. And they should have never been forced to take them in order to go to work, in order to go maybe in a Democrat city to go shopping, to go in a restaurant. Never should have been forced on them. But it was. And that is the party that did that to us will do those things and more again. Yeah, and our military, absolutely. Our military was forced to take it. Myocarditis has been extremely high in military members. Heart problems, strokes, blood clots. They don't want to even talk about the blood clots. There's so many things they do not. My own COVID committee does not want to talk about those things. So at times, I hold my own hearings. I've held my own hearing on COVID and on vaccines. I've also held my own hearing on abortion and the horrific industry of selling, this is tragic, organs harvested from babies that were aborted. We had a hearing on that just recently. There's so many things that Washington, D.C. wants to cover up and not talk about, but they have to be talked about. Now, here's our situation in Washington. It is important for leaders like me, just like if you own a business or you're a manager at your job, if you're a parent or a grandparent, you have a responsibility placed on your shoulders to solve the problems, to fix things, to not allow it to continue. That is our job. And here, this is why I keep bringing this back. The Republican Party has to make a decision. And we know why this is an issue. Because America elected Donald Trump in 2016. And we elected him because we were fed up with Republicans. Fed up with them. Now, no matter how you feel about President Trump, whether you like him or don't like him, his 4-year presidency speaks for itself. It is night and day difference. It is night and day difference between President Trump's policies and Joe Biden's policies. But there's more to it. There is a large percentage of Republican voters that elected Donald Trump because he wasn't one of the normal Republican politicians. And we elected him and supported him because he wasn't one of the same old Republicans in Washington making sure that the wheels keep turning for the deep state. That is the referendum on the Republican Party that is really needing to happen now. And that is why it's so important that we stand up and say, no more. You can't go on television and do your talk, your tough talk on TV, and you can't go out on the campaign trail and do your tough talk on the campaign trail. You can't call up donors and beg them for money and claim that you're against this and you're going to stop the Democrat agenda when we have a Republican Speaker of the House that did none of that to stop it. He funded it. And so what I'm telling you and what I want you to know is, number one, I'm not going to hand over the gavel to the Democrats. I will never do that. But number two, and most importantly, I will not tolerate this anymore. That's the whole reason I ran for Congress. Now I want to take your questions. So you guys are great. Y'all write these questions for me, and I got to get my glasses out. Who can fill the speaker's seat that will stand strong for the Republican Party? That's a great question. Oh, they're not going to vote for me. If they wanted to actually fix everything, they should. No, there's a lot of great, talented people in there. And then here's when you vote for a Speaker of the House, it has to happen within our conference. Whichever majority party holds the majority in Congress is the one that elects the Speaker. So all Republicans would have to fight, elect someone, pick someone and elect someone. And I support my conference. Let me tell you how much I support my conference. I am one of the few Republicans in our conference that's actually paid all my dues. That's how much I support the majority. I paid all my dues. And that is proof with my actions and my own dollars that I support our Republican majority. And that also means that I support my colleagues. And I respect them. So if we have to vote for a new Speaker of the House, I want them to be a part of it. It's not me bullying and pushing my way through. I know who I like, but it would be a decision among everyone together. I wish it was a popular vote. I think you guys would pick a better speaker than our own conference. Has Speaker Johnson explained his behavior on the budget? There is no, and I don't know what explanation he could possibly give. I have not heard one. Maybe we'll hear one this week, and I'll be all ears to hear it. But he already funded all this stuff. I told you guys. Let's go back to the glasses. How can Rep address the abortion issue in a less how can Republicans address the abortion issue in a less polarizing manner? You know something, guys? I don't think it can be less polarizing. It's just the truth. And I'm unapologetically pro-life. I am. That's my stance. And I am always so proud and delighted and amazed when I go to women's pregnancy resource centers. They're incredible. There's a great one in Dalton that's not too far from here. I think women need supported. I think men are also important in the decision making. I'm a big believer in daddies too, not just moms. And listen, being a mom has been the greatest joy of my life. Way better than this job. I'll tell you that. I would do that job all day long. But I don't think the abortion issue can ever be less polarizing because of the issue itself. President Trump did put out a statement today. If you want to go check out his statement and see where he stands on it. We are a small veteran-owned company. Our main competitor is in Europe. They engage in price dumping in an effort to drive us out of business. Is there any way to protect USA businesses against this practice? Yes, there is. My goodness. And God bless you for being a veteran-owned business. Yes, your business should come first. And there's a lot of ways we can do this. We can do this by putting taxes on things that we import into our country, but yet giving tax cuts and credits or any kind of help on their taxes for our USA-owned, American-owned companies. Our American business owners deserve the help, not the foreign business owners. I think we should put all of our American companies first. No, we are not. Unfortunately, we should be. We should be. We have to, Congress has to do it. How do people go to Congress and become multimillionaires in a few years on a $175,000 salary? Mr. Walter, I do not know. I haven't found that money tree up there in Washington or printing machine that they all seem to have. It's amazing, truly amazing. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi, I tell you what, supposedly she has some great stock tips. Y'all should check her out. How do you get the $34 trillion deficit down? Oh my gosh, we stopped funding the garbage that Speaker Johnson funded. It's so simple. That's why I reference Mealy down there in Argentina. That guy's brave. He has courage. His people in Argentina were brave when they elected him. He's doing exactly what any business owner that's on the verge of bankruptcy does. Let's be real. The American people do it in your everyday life. I know I had to do it in mine before I ever became a member of Congress. When you hit hard times in a business or you find yourself in debt personally, you have to cut the spending, number one, right? And you have to change your habits. That goes with cutting the spending. We can fix this problem in America if we're willing to do it, but there's very little backbone in Washington, D.C., not enough courage and people there for the wrong reasons.
Have you heard about Biden's new student loan program, where he's gonna let them get away with their loans?
Yes, that's been talked about a lot. Yes, he's trying to forgive their student loan debts. I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't go to college that really don't think that's fair. Who do you support for speaker? Will you run for the job? we covered that one. What are Republicans going to do to prohibit illegal ballot harvesting in the 2024 presidential election and to stop Biden from using taxpayer money? That is one of the best questions. Let me tell you, I think we're not doing enough yet, and I think we need to do more. Number one, everyone can get involved, and we need everyone to get involved. But I think some of the most important issues, these absentee ballots, are ripe for fraud. And that is a serious concern. I know Georgia, we passed a new law. I would have liked to have seen it cut down dramatically. The amount of absentee ballots that are being used are really scary to me. And the fact that, illegal aliens can come in the country, and after they get their papers, they can get a social security number. And one of the ways you can register to vote with a social security is with a social security number. Driver's license or social security number. And you don't have to have proof of identification to register to vote with a social security number. I totally agree with President Trump. Without safe elections, we don't have a country. Just like we don't have a country without strong, secure borders. And we're losing our country every day by not protecting our elections. Elections matter. And I really think we need to do more.
What can we do?
Take a sledgehammer to the Dominion machine.
Well, we got to vote. We have to.
How do we vote on the Chinese controlled machine?
We have to look. The state of Georgia right now controls the election. I'm at the federal level, so there's nothing I can do for state elections. And I can tell you right now, with the way the Biden administration handles things, you don't want the federal government in charge of your state elections. So I would encourage you to continue to put pressure on your state legislatures, and continue to say, we do not like the way our elections are being run.
What should we do about the crypto money in Dalton, Georgia? I did security there for Emerson Russell.
I'm sure you can talk to one of my staff about that. I've got to run through all the questions here.
Well, my question's not in there because that ain't any views on the internet, and I want my.
We can have somebody talk with you about this. We have to work through these. Thank you. How do you reconcile your anti-immigrant rhetoric with your responsibility of representing a large Hispanic American constituency here in Whitfield County? Thank you for that question, whoever asked it. I'm not against immigrants. I'm for legal immigration. Let me be very clear. Legal immigration has nothing to do with your skin color, your identity, your sexuality, or your politics. Legal immigration is following our immigration laws and coming in line legally, waiting in line like many legal immigrants have had to go through this process. And those are many Hispanics. And I'm very happy for them that they became American citizens. I represent my constituency here in Georgia's 14th District to the fullest and best of my abilities. I'm proud of my staff. We have an incredible constituent services. We have an incredible staff that's dedicated at all times. We represent those that legally immigrated here, whether they are Hispanic, whether they are Asian, no matter where they came from, we do work for them and we do a great job for them. Now, if they came here illegally, I suggest they go home, okay? I'm not playing the race politics or the identity garbage. Legislation is needed to protect the freedom of physicians to practice medicine without interference or unnecessary restriction. We need to allow them to practice with the freedom they have traditionally had. Would you support legislation? Of course, that depends on the issue. If you're talking about like how to treat COVID, there were many doctors that had incredible protocols and have saved so many COVID patients. I know one of the doctors, he's one of my own doctors, and he didn't lose a single COVID patient to COVID because he had such a great protocol. Those are the things I definitely support. I support a lot more freedom in healthcare. I think the government is getting way too involved. And obviously with everyone's health insurance prices, I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. Insurance prices altogether, right? Outrageous. Can something be proposed to make it a federal crime to murder a member of law enforcement? No bail, mandatory life sentence if found guilty. We have strong laws against murdering a member of law enforcement. So I'm not sure specifically, but we do have strong laws against that. One federal law that I have a bill for, and I can't seem to get it to the floor for a vote, is the Protect Children's Innocence Act. I forgot to bring that up earlier. This is a bill, this is very simple. It would make it a felony to treat anyone under the age of 18 with puberty blockers, perform transgender surgeries on anyone under the age of 18. I think that would be a great federal law. But I can't seem to get it to the floor for a vote. Imagine that. The WHO will be wanting to take over global health policies in the world. Yes, they will, including the US. Will be voting on this. Would you please vote against the WHO takeover? You got my word. I will not vote for the WHO. As a matter of fact, I don't think we should send a single penny to the WHO. They should have no say in anything we do. Let's see. How can we ensure fair elections? That's the most important issue there is. Look, I'll tell you guys a real quick story. I went to Iowa campaigning for you-know-who, and I took part in the Iowa caucus there. They do paper ballots. It is the most impressive thing I've ever seen. They have all their little precincts, and everybody goes to their precinct, and they caucus together, and then they hand out paper ballots to everyone, and you write down who you're voting for, and you turn it in at the table, and right there in front of all the voters, the people at the table count the votes and tally the votes. You cannot see, it's the most transparent thing I've ever seen. So all the voters get to watch the votes be tallied, and then they get the results done, and the entire thing is done in a few hours. There are no excuses. No excuses why we can't have paper ballots. There's no excuses why we can't get our elections done in one day. This election shenanigans and counting ballots and absentee ballots for weeks and weeks on end, watching them flip from President Trump won to Joe Biden won. There's no reason for it. Everybody knows it. What is happening with immigration issues? We're being invaded. Sorry, y'all know how I feel. How do we fix our border problem? We put our military at the border. I actually introduced a bill that would do that. It hasn't been to the floor for a vote yet either. They don't want to fix the border. The Democrats would love new voters. They don't want to fix it. Speaker Johnson is better than McCarthy. Why risk the Republican majority by calling for his removal? I beg to differ also. Now, I don't want to get into, I'm not going to get into the business of comparing Kevin McCarthy to Mike Johnson, But I will tell you, under Kevin McCarthy, we passed 7 appropriation bills separately. They weren't packaged in a minibus or an omnibus. We only had 5 more to go. 5 more to go. When we elected Mike Johnson after 3.5 really tough weeks, Mike Johnson passed 3 CRs, never brought appropriations back in a single bill, like separately. We only had 5. All we had to do was pass 5 more appropriation bills. I'm telling you guys, 3 CRs, and then he handed us a 2-part omnibus. He broke the 72-hour rule, gave us 1 day to read over 1,000 pages, didn't even put the bill through the Rules Committee, and didn't allow us to do amendments. If Kevin McCarthy had ever done that, I would have filed a motion to vacate and thrown him out myself. So I can tell you right now, I fully disagree. You can feel however you want about Kevin McCarthy, but he has done nothing like Mike Johnson has done to us. Nothing. That's provable. That's no matter who you listen to on a podcast or whoever's post, those are the facts. And I think the facts speak for themselves. I'm having a hard time. We the people. I'm not sure what the top said. We the people. Well, if it's we the people, I agree. We the people is who needs to be represented. Why do people go to Congress with ideals then sell out? Wonderful question. You know, well, there's probably a lot of reasons. I think some people go to Congress with really good intentions. I think they do. I think they start out with really good intentions. And then they get there, and that's where they make friends. And those are the people that they think matter because they don't come home and come in person to their town halls. And they don't come home enough and they forget about the people that voted for them and hired them in the first place. I think that's some of it. Another part of it is they end up representing the groups and companies and lobbyists and special interests in Washington, D.C. I think some of them are just really dumb to begin with. I'll be honest. They are. I mean, look at Jerry Nadler. I have tons of examples. I could go through a whole, probably hundreds of them, that I don't know why they're there. And then they were probably never anything maybe that important or really the right type of things that are important before they became a member of Congress. And then all of a sudden, that's the identity that they think is the most important. Can you imagine thinking that that's the most important identity? That's where people get off track. Most important identity I have is I'm the daughter of God. I'm a saved sinner. Thankfully, I'm saved by the blood of Jesus Christ. That's my identity. I'm also a mom. I also am a daughter and a sister and an aunt. I'm a neighbor. I'm a friend. That's my identity. And then I'm a business owner. And please let it be the Trump train. I don't know why they get lost in Washington, because I don't think Washington is that special. I think home is much more important. Why is it so important for you to oust Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House? I think I've covered it. I hope I've covered it. What's happened to our Republican Party? Why no uniter? Why is Mike Johnson folding on everything the Democrats want? I do not understand it, and we don't understand it. We don't understand how someone he voted no to Ukraine aid, by the way. September 28th, 2023, less than 7 months ago, he voted no to $300 million to Ukraine. And now all of a sudden he's saying it's his top priority is sending Ukraine $60 billion. I don't know what changes someone. I don't know how someone goes from being pro-life, and I believe he is. He's a Christian. I believe that about him. This isn't a personal attack on Mike Johnson. That's not it for me. I don't know how he goes from that stance to funding full-term abortion clinics. I have no idea.
Blackmail.
That's what some people say. I don't have any proof of that. So for me, I'm telling you the truth. I do not know how someone changes so much. It doesn't make sense. And it's wrong. That's what I do know. It's wrong. And you can't be the Republican leader and you can't be the Republican Speaker of the House if you're passing all the major bills with all the Democrats, tying our hands behind our backs, not allowing us to make amendments, not following the rules that we voted on, and not following the 7 tenets that he gave us. If he's doing all that, he's not our Republican Speaker of the House. He's the Democrat Speaker of the House, and he's doing a better job than Hakeem Jeffries would have. And that's the reality. What I can promise you is this. Listen, our majority is important, but we are losing Republican members of Congress under Mike Johnson. They kicked out George Santos under Mike Johnson, even though he wasn't convicted. We have other Republican members of Congress leaving early, like Mike Gallagher. He's leaving early and not even giving his district a chance to hold a special election to replace him. That's Mike Johnson. His job is the care and keeping of our majority, and we're losing the majority under Mike Johnson. So I have a lot of reasons that are concerning to me. I wanted to address them here with you because I think, again, you are the people I work for. You hired me, and I want you to make sure that I have an understanding, we have an understanding. Here's where my head's at. Here's what happened. Here's why I'm mad. Here's why I don't think we can tolerate it. Where we go from here is going to be a process that will have to play out. But I thought it was important, most of all, for me to come to you guys and tell you first before I get on a plane and go up there to the swamp. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for coming. Don't forget, my staff is here if you need help with any issue. God bless you guys. God bless Georgia. And I'll see you guys soon. All my stuff.